Wow. Hello, this is Kanoshi Abominito with a Project Console with the uh, episode 21 of Project Console. Uh, we only play at parties, and and before we get started, like my panelist to introduce himself. Oh, hold on. Um, I gotta. That's weird. All right, try talk again. All right, try giving your introduction one more time.
All right. This
All
is
right.
Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. I'm glad to be on another cast.
All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. The mic, the microphone that usually catches the chat uh, wasn't working. But in any case, um, so Elden Ring came out last weekend. Um, PC and consoles. Now on consoles, I haven't heard much trouble, but From Software has not been very. They haven't been known for good PC ports, and the PC port's a little not functioning as well as it should be. Like they came out with a patch on Friday, and kind of made things a little bit worse. So it's one of those games, one of those situations where the game was better optimized on consoles than it was on PC. Uh, Mr. Red Fox, you said you played the game.
Yeah,
What did you play it on when you played it at your
I
friend's
played
house?
it on a gaming PC, not my gaming PC, but a friend of mine's gaming PC. His like really expensive, custom built, high end gaming PC. I really didn't see that many issues on PC, but I mean, this guy's got like a really friggin' uh, beefy rig. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's a you know. Um, I did some reading um, on this, and I don't think the PC port was handled by From Software. I
Oh,
think the PC port was handled by another development studio contracted out by Namco Bandai because they're the ones who, if I remember correctly, From Software. Like Namco Bandai is the one that uh, like handled the PC port of that game.
'cause I know
And
FromSoft is a particular, a smaller company, and a
yeah,
lot. I don't think a lot of these Japanese companies, particular,
they don't do good PC ports.
yeah,
From like Namco Bandai in general does really bad PC ports. Only in the last
Two
like
years.
I'd say like 3 years has Namco Bandai started to do some, and I'm not saying like all of them, some good PC ports. Like Tales of Arise, the PC port was pretty good. But I mean, just before that, like the other Tales games that were ported to PC were terrible.
yeah,
So it's just one of those things where it's like I I don't want to necessarily say it was From Software. Also, I heard that I mean, you're having a similar issue on the PS5 as well, where it's like you can either have the game look gorgeous and be like 30 frames, or you can have it perform well and be like 60 frames, like be 60 frames and not look as good. Um, I mean, that's just. I mean, that's kind of the flaw of modern gaming these days because people don't want to optimize games for the hardware. So instead, they basically put different modes on these systems so that you can choose what you prefer better. Even though, I mean, if you keep it real, most From Software games have never been great. The graphics have had a certain artistic style, but they were never like, oh my god, this game is amazing. It looks so
Yeah, it's
realistic and
it's it's their art style that carries them. It's not their
Gameplay.
technical. No, it's not.
yeah,
It's not their technical appearance that makes any of their games stand out.
like you play Bloodborne. No one's playing Bloodborne because of the graphical fidelity. People play Bloodborne because of the WTF factor of the boss. Is like, what the fudge is that? What just killed me? What is that? Like that's the aspect of the game that gets people, and like the ridiculous high difficulty, and how you have to do the buy-in in order to master it. Because I mean, I'll give From Software this much credit. Unlike a lot of other studios, development studios, that basically cater their game to make it easier for a more casual audience to get into it, From Software's like, F that. Get good.
Yeah,
If you can't get good, sit your behind down and go play something else. Go play
yeah,
Mario.
yeah.
Go play The Legend of Zelda. Go play
I'll
Kirby.
I'll let you guys in on a little secret. Some of the footage that you're seeing because I picked up Elden Ring for the PC. When I was using a trainer, so
I don't blame you.
yeah,
It's a tough game.
I'm one of those people. So yeah. So if you're wondering why I die and I don't lose any runes, yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, how could you? It's like, because, I mean, it's your game and you can play it the way you want to.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about PC gaming.
You know? Like, people are like, how could you? Well, because I don't want to play my game and play it the way I want to. That's why.
Yeah,
That's
That's
why I'm
gonna
playing it
skew
like
how.
that.
That's likely going to skew how you're going to feel about the game. I'm going to tell you that now.
Well, that's true. That is true. Because there's some games that have like major issues, and if you play it on PC, where you can basically mod it to be better or to take care of those issues, it's not as big as an issue. For example, um, I recently played a mod of Breath of the Wild on PC where it changes the weapon durability, so you can basically make it so that weapons are 10 times more durable, and
yep,
it adds new dungeons, like actual like legit dungeons that weren't in that game, and it makes it into a much better game. It's like, wow, there's actual dungeons. I'm shocked.
Hmm.
And it's like, like, but you can only really have that on PC. Like you can't, like, if there was some type of modding platform for the console versions of Breath of the Wild, that'd be awesome. Plus, I played a version. I modded in CJ from uh from
GTA.
GTA San Andreas, which is also kind of fun. Because if you play Breath of the Wild, it has a lot of GTA San Andreas stuff. Like you wander around and there's gang members, except the gangs are monsters. And when they see you, they attack you, and you can take them down and stuff. I mean, it's kind of like that, like kind of like the whole turf takedown, except unlike in GTA San Andreas, where you can eventually take over the entire map and then just have certain areas where enemies come back. Like all the work you do is always constantly being
Undone because of the Red Moon.
negated because the game has a broken gameplay loop. Uh, so it's like because the game is built around maintaining the status quo. So once you beat the game, that's kind of the end. They say they fix that because what they do after that is they're like, well, we're doing Legend of Zelda 2 where other things are happening, but it kind of doesn't feel that way to me. But to each his own.
yeah. Um, yeah, that's the thing about Elden Ring. It's like the creators they were playing a lot of Breath of the Wild, and it's like, yeah, we could probably make this a bit more interesting because I feel like that their mechanics that they've used in their games for years. I think work a lot better in an open world game than they do in the sort of games that they were making, such as
Yeah.
the surprise, you know, the surprise enemies. I mean, it makes more sense in an open world game where you're kind of under this illusion of the world is
There's stuff
living.
going on that you're
Yeah,
not aware of. Where instead of you being in an enclosed space and just some enemy spawns behind some boxes, busts down the boxes and kills you, it's like, come on, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
well. Here's the irony of Elden Ring. The irony of Elden Ring is that From Software took their Dark Souls King's Field gameplay, and they basically added traditional Legend of Zelda elements, like there's dungeons and bosses and equipment and stuff like that.
yeah,
Whereas Breath of the Wild was hailed as being this brilliant game. I'm using air quotes here. When Breath of the Wild just took concepts that, I mean, frankly, people were tired of in Far Cry and Assassin's Creed and put it into The Legend of Zelda while
yeah,
taking away core features that were in previous installments. And I'm like, because like the things that people were tired of in Far Cry and Assassin's Creed, which is, hey, if I want to open up the map, I have to climb up this tower and interact with a MacGuffin in order to open up the map. You do the same thing
yeah,
in Breath of the Wild, and it's just as annoying. The only difference is that when that happens, you have more physical interaction with the world, where you have to you can you can use your slate and use that to uh like put down
Teleport.
map points to
Map.
explore. But it's still like this is and the dungeons are kind of because the gameplay loop is such a way that it has it has built-in obsolescence, because your weapons break, even your most powerful weapons break far too quickly against tougher enemies unless you play darn near perfectly. I mean, and Elden Ring has the same thing, where in order for you to once you get really good, you start playing really well and darn near perfectly, but you don't have your weapons breaking in the middle of the fight, so it's like you can keep on fighting and switch things up, and plus they add the whole you can summon monsters to help you out. You can strengthen those. I mean, it's just it's just kind of an irony to me that people are praising Elden Ring for the gameplay and stuff like that, and the hilarious thing is, um, it just added traditional Legend of Zelda tropes to Elden Ring.
yeah. In some ways, it's a better Breath of the Wild than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
In some way, no.
Here's what I'll say. I will say that what Breath of the Wild does really well, it does exceptionally well.
Yeah,
Like that sense of exploration, the sense of because I'm doing a video on my channel, like a two-parter, where I'm gonna it's called my ideal Breath of the Wild, where I recently went back and replayed it on my Switch, and I'm like, okay, I want to see, does this, do I still feel the same way I did, the last time I beat that game, like 2-3 years ago? And I do, but I still recognize what it does really well, like the sense of wonder and exploration. The problem is that, Breath of the Wild is like a wide pond, like a real when it rains really hard someplace, and there's someplace that doesn't have good drainage, so you have this really really wide pond, right? That looks expansive, but then you realize it's only like 2 or 3 inches deep.
yeah,
That's Breath of the Wild. It looks amazing, but then you realize it's only 2 or 3 inches deep. I would rather have a game that is like is a small I'd rather have a smaller experience with a lot of depth than a broad experience that's shallow. Which Breath of the Wild is kind of like it's a broad experience. There's a lot of stuff going on, but once you dig into the surface, it's like, oh, this is not very deep at all. Elden Ring kind of strikes that balance where it's broader than most other From Software games in terms of like what the gameplay systems and stuff like that. But there's a lot of exploration. There's mounts. There's dungeons. It still has a lot of that cryptic From Software stuff with weird NPCs and that weird art style. And it's always like every From Software game, it always feels like there's something wrong with this world.
yeah.
There's something off. Like even the NPCs who were helping you, it's like, I shouldn't trust you. Why do you have a mushroom growing out of your head?
Well, one of the things about this game is I keep seeing headlines of uh, Berserk Easter eggs, and I mean, just with the name of the world alone, the lands in between. Because you know, if you've read Berserk, you know that the main country the that the story takes place in is Midland, which you know it was in the middle of two other lands. That's why it was called Midland. So yeah, I've been enjoying the game, and yeah, um, which is surprising because I don't typically like Souls games, but I figured the open world aspect of it just made it a lot more interesting to me. So
Yeah. I mean, playing a Souls game with mods where you can essentially um, where you can play the game where it's the sorry, the difficulty isn't as punishing, actually does make it better.
yeah,
It's like if there was a slightly easier mode on Cuphead, I think it would have been. I think it would have been. More people would have played it and more people would have enjoyed it. 'Cause some games can be too hard for the average player. But I mean, like I said, for good or for ill, I give From Software credit. They have not changed. They keep on making the games they want to play, and they don't care if you like it or don't like it.
I mean,
And
yeah, I
I
do.
appreciate a developer like that.
Yeah, I mean, I do respect that, but I just think people get a little too out of hand if you make if you bring up um why don't they have an easier difficulties for people who like the exploration and just want to enjoy the vibe of the game? Like people just get super militant about that. It's like, oh, okay, but
I mean, I
I
understand. I can understand both sides. This isn't like
yeah
a black or white issue. I can understand why more people would want to play a game that is more open and free with the difficulty curve. I mean, because the same thing that happens with From Software is the same thing that happens with Platinum Games. Like Platinum Games are so hardcore that the average gamer is just not going to be able to get into a lot of them.
yeah
You
Even on
know?
the easy modes, which, if I
Yeah.
remember, certain games like the Wonderful 101 does have, but
Yeah, but even the
those
easy
like
mode for Wonderful 101, and I think they added that in the re-release of Wonderful 101. I don't think that was in the
actually
original
it was
game.
the it was
It was in the original game. I don't
yeah
remember,
yeah
but
yeah.
they
I
were
mean, it's been a long time since I beat that game.
I own the games,
Um,
so I
yeah, I
actually
have
know.
I have the game as well. It's been a long time since I beat it. But the thing that I remember from that game is that even the easier mode. The only platinum game I've played that had a difficulty curve that is like the easiest to get into is Okami. Every other platinum game I've played, like once the difficulty ramps up, the difficulty is like, come on, man.
yeah yeah
It's that difficulty where it's
Yeah,
almost like it's like they're punishing the player versus challenging the player, and that's where I kind of am like,
I understand where you're coming from, and the funny thing is, this is from somebody that played both Wonderful 101 games on normal.
yeah, like I said, and I like Wonderful 101. I like the concept, I like the gameplay, but I'm like when people say, yeah, this game, parts of this game are too hard. Their entire gameplay concepts that they don't even tell you about. Like you just have to like if you read an online fact, that's the only way you're going to know about certain gameplay concepts, and that's not good game design.
yeah
That's old school game design. But just because something was acceptable back in the day doesn't make it good game design.
yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of gamers think that everything from back in the day was awesome because, um, it was in back in the day. But
I was
not
gonna say that
everything.
I was gonna say that a portion of it was good, though that portion is a little bit hard to find at times.
Well, the thing about a lot of older games is they don't tell you nothing. You gotta figure everything out. They don't tell you what you have to do or where you have to go. Uh,
Yeah, and that's how it was back in the day. But I mean, that's not good. Like that's not good game design now because you're alienating people from not wanting to play your game. Back in
yeah,
the day, like if you only got one or two games a year, and you didn't want your parents to trade your game in, so you just like you took a bad game and you just played it because that's all you had. Like it's not like that anymore, and it wasn't like that wasn't good game design back then. We just accepted it because that's all you could do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to be like rose tinted goggles. Back in the day, yeah, there's some stuff back in the day that was good, like how RPGs back in the day weren't so over casualized that they like you had to learn the gameplay systems.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like the game wasn't going to make itself easier just because you didn't understand stats and equipment and party makeup and stuff like that, classes. Like you just if you want to get good at the game, you had to understand those gameplay systems. Now, instead of developers coming up with better ways to explain those gameplay systems to gamers, they just strip it out and call it streamlining.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of our favorite developers are guilty of this. So they're all doing it. It's not just one or two people or one or two studios or one or two developers. Like a lot of games are getting quote unquote streamlined to be more accessible for different types of gamers, and it's good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, I'm not going to say, like, I think there's a sweet spot. I think you can have the core mechanics and also have, stuff be not so overly, have so much features ripped out that the game no longer resembles what it used to be.
Yeah, that's always the scary thing when they start streamlining games. Sometimes
The risk reward.
sometimes
You get it faster, but you'll have something stripped out because of it.
sometimes when a company says, "Oh, we're going to streamline a game," it's like, "Oh no."
Yeah, well,
Oh,
the
no.
streamlining doesn't make the game easier to develop. The streamlining just means that gameplay features that might be difficult for more a casual fan base to grasp aren't there. Like, perfect example, like you go through Breath of the Wild, right? Breath of the Wild doesn't have like equipment like other Legend of Zelda games. Instead, you have just weapons like gear that break over time.
Yeah.
Right? So because they have weapons that break over time, you have no real like they didn't need dungeons because you have no incentive to go into a dungeon because I mean like there's no reason to because I mean normally you'd say, well, if I go into the dungeon I can find like a really powerful new item that's going to let me traverse the world, where they give you everything you need to traverse the world in the tutorial area.
Yeah.
So it's just, and like, it's like they don't need really impressive bosses because they were like, well, our dungeons are going to be actually like mini dungeons that you fight the same boss, except he might have a different weapon. Like, Ganon in one place might use a spear, and in another place he might use a sword. It's like, they streamlined it to the point where it doesn't even feel like a Legend of Zelda game in some respects. But then there are parts of it where it's like, wow, this would have been great in a dungeon. Like I remember going to the Goron lands in Breath of the Wild, and I'm like, there's a part where you have to use the magnet rune in order to hit these switches on this minecart thing that has a cannon on it in order to get this character out of this situation. It's like, wow, this would have been great in a dungeon.
Yeah.
Too bad it's just some normal thing that's just out there. Like, it's just like, man, there's some good ideas in here, but they're just not very well realized, or they're ill used in where they are. There's some good ideas in there, but it's just kind of like you can tell where they streamline themselves into a hole. Now, part of this could be they were busy; they didn't have the time to work on the new stuff because they were busy getting the game to run on to porting it over to the Switch.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Probably a combination of porting it to the Switch and making sure that physics engine didn't break, but other than that, yeah, there's definitely that game definitely had some missed opportunities. But before we go on to the second topic, there was another game I played over the weekend. That was the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster. I don't know if any of you have got a chance to
Oh
play
boy.
it or look at it, but
I
I've
looked at
been
it. I didn't play it.
I I've been
I'm just hoping
enjoying
it didn't turn out as bad as I think it does.
I've been enjoying it. I haven't played a ton of it. One of the things I really have enjoyed about the game is the music. Like it's one of the I wouldn't say rare exceptions, but one of the exceptions when it comes to mixing the old MIDI music with orchestral and modern instruments. Thought is I thought was really good, and even the pixel art I find pretty good too compared to the that trash they put out on iOS a few years ago. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
but
eh, I'll stick with my original cartridge. I'm sorry, I can't.
I
I
know some
can't.
I know some people were disappointed with the translation just for the fact that there are people that actually like the old Super Nintendo translation with the somewhat bad translation. So
Well, the Final Fantasy VI translation wasn't that bad. Now, Final Fantasy 5 and 4, yes. 6 was actually pretty good.
yeah,
Um, but I can see where, this is one of those things that they're making a really good game more approachable for new gamers. So I can't get that angry, but I'll just stick to my original cartridge.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Um,
but in any case, second topic. Hold up.
Oh boy.
Second topic. Two new Pokemon games were announced. Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. Now, I I I I don't know how I feel about this. I just think I think Pokemon needs to take a break.
They did
And
another
I
3-year run.
think they need to take a little vacation. Uh,
Seriously.
Coming out to somewhat big Pokemon games at the same year. I don't know. Just
2? Oh god, that's
or should I say
well,
three?
I won't say a year, but I will say about in 2 years they've come out with uh, let's see, Arceus, and then that other one.
Brilliant
Well,
Diamond
no, the
Sun and Pearl.
expansion, the expansion for the other one, and now this. So within 2 years, 3 games using the same engine over and over and over again with no new changes. I
Heh.
know they say it's open world, but no,
Open world my rear end.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe because I mean they said that Sword and Shield was going to be open world, didn't they?
Only one little location is open world, if
No,
any.
that's what they said. They said it was going to be open world, and it turned out to
Scar.
be more BS as well. So I don't
Yeah.
trust it.
The thing is, I just hate how the Pokemon models look in 3D. I wish they would look more like.
They,
I mean,
you
I
wish
know
they
they
were more
switched
animated?
more animated because they kind of just they look like balloons. They look like balloon animals.
They look like blow up animals.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just kind of like I wish they kind of looked more like animals, like at least plushies. But I know the Switch can only do so much render wise.
No, this
Well,
isn't a Switch issue. This is a Game Freak
This
issue.
is a freaking Game Freak issue that clearly has not been solved, and they're willing to not solve it for the foreseeable future. And by the way,
Because fans
these
will buy
guys,
it anyway.
that and if anything, they have the most money that they even overshadow Nintendo to
Oh
a
yeah.
point.
Oh yeah. They are the most valuable. They have the most valuable IP in the video game industry.
yeah,
A lot of money, even though like Nintendo owns like has
A
a thirty
portion of
percent
it.
they're like a 30% shareholder in Game Freak. So if Game Freak got money, Nintendo got money. But it's just the idea of this company just like they don't change. They don't like you have this huge high selling IP. Branch it off and do something new. Stop doing the same thing over and over and over. I mean, it's
I mean,
annoying.
Yeah,
even the
it's
side games are starting to make me annoyed, and that was supposed to get me through what the main games have been doing.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like it's like I don't know the way they going back to the whole visuals thing real quick. It's like no fur textures, no like scale textures for like the fish or it's just I don't know. It just seems it all comes off as a bit lazy to me.
yeah, because they were like, we want to get this game out. We're gonna use the same engine, and we're not gonna optimize it or do anything because thing. You play Smash Brothers. You look at Donkey Kong, he's got fur textures. You play Mario Odyssey. The different creatures, if they have fur, they have fur textures. Like you
Yeah,
look at Mario's outfit,
You can
you
see
can
the
see the
stitching
fabric.
in the
You see
yeah,
the stitching. You see the stitching. So
yeah.
this
yeah,
is not this is not the Switch isn't powerful enough. No, Game Freak and the Pokemon Company are lazy. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
they're
Yes,
lazy and they wanted to get something out and they didn't care.
yeah.
Okay, and
yes.
because the Pokemon fan base, not all of them, because you got some people who are like, no, this is bullshit. This is
Oh
BS.
God,
But a lot
I
of the
have
Pokemon
to
fan
scream
base,
at
like the
these
Pokemon
people at
Company,
this rate.
the Pokemon Company could open up a pizza box, a blank pizza box, and Dookie in it, and then close it and put Pokemon, Pokemon.
Pepperoni or Pokemon sausage.
No.
Oh
They
God.
could put Pokemon. They could put Pokemon Onyx or Pokemon Oryx or Pokemon Magnetite, and people would buy that because it had Pokemon on it. You know,
Yeah,
they don't hold this company accountable for their BS.
I just didn't think. It's just like I just didn't think Pokemon still had that sort of power that it did
It
20, 30
still
years
often
ago.
does, and it makes me want to scream at these people that they are supporting stupid at this point.
Yeah,
Every few
Pokemon.
years, what happens is that the Pokemon Company gets they go back to the nostalgia well and they make a game that's really well made that gets the old heads back on board, like a X or Y. And then they'll expend that goodwill to get more casuals in who get indoctrinated into it and they carry it forward. I mean, they're good at growing their brand, and the games aren't even the things that make the money for the Pokemon Company. What makes the money for the Pokemon Company is all the licensing and stuff.
The merchandise, the anime, the the card games,
Yeah,
I
the
and
mean, all the
toys.
merchandising, not
and
just
here's
the anime, like the toys, the
yes,
friggin'
the
other stuff, like
toys,
all that stuff
cards,
makes money for them.
the shirts, the animations, the even even tie-ins. That
Yeah,
that is what makes me even more angry because they they could pull out all they could pull out nearly every single little thing that makes what Pokemon was back in the day, or even as recent as going into the start of the 3D era, offer offer something trash in a box, and and they could get at least 2 million easy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because they aren't held to because certain Pokemon fans will not hold the Pokemon Company to any type of higher standard.
And
They're happy getting the same regurgitated trash over and over and over again. Doesn't matter if it's BS. It doesn't matter if it you know is mediocre. As long as it's Pokemon, they're happy. They're
yeah,
like Disney fans.
and the,
Whatever BS it is. Oh, it's Disney, so I'll run with it.
yeah. I mean,
I'm already burning here, so excuse me while I get some water.
I remember seeing I was seeing comments like, "Man, I didn't know they were still making GameCube games. I can't wait for this game to come out." It's like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, I mean, it just
wish it looked like the GameCube games. The GameCube games were made by Genius Sonority, and like the GameCube games were actually unique because, for one thing, you weren't playing. It wasn't that normal. Let me go to the different gyms and the 8 different gyms and catch all the Pokemon and the same story, just with slight permutations. It was different. You were stealing Shadow Pokemon and cleansing them. Like, it was okay. This is different. This is different. Like, how many times can we choose the same 3 starters? 1 fire, 1 water, 1 grass. Like, could you change it up? Change it up.
I don't know how if you've seen the new starters.
Yeah, they look like trash.
They look terrible. Like the water starter looks like Donald Duck's retarded cousin.
Excuse me, boys. I'm gonna have to say this, and this is not to downsize your commentary, but
say that.
I was gonna say this, that I wait until I see the final evolution before I make judgment, and so far I am holding that.
We don't say the R word around here. He looks like he's developmentally challenged.
Okay, he looks
developmentally challenged.
He looks like he was rejected from the Donald Duck family.
He looks like a rejected Disney sketch.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't even know what the other two are.
You boys are roasting these guys before they even show their final form.
Yeah, come on.
They could turn it around, but I mean, can we finally just admit that the Pokemon Company has been getting lazier and lazier with their Pokemon designs over the years?
I mean, I would agree with you.
Why do we keep on trying to pretend like they aren't getting?
I was going to say that to me, the only thing that keeps me at least interested in the Pokemon Company is the Pokemon designs and what skills and moves they got, and that's starting to run thin.
The thing that let me know that the Pokemon Company was running out of
ideas
for their designs was when they had that one where they created keys. I was like, let me get this straight.
That's Gen 6 here.
One of your monsters is a set of keys. I mean, how lazy do you have to be? It's like Johnson, we need another Pokemon. Okay.
And of all things, it's a fairy type.
Fairy
steel, which is kind of what the F?
Johnson, we need that new Pokemon design. Okay, I got it. It's gonna be what is it gonna be, Johnson? The guy's like sticks his hand in his pocket. Oh, keys! That's it! Keys! Clef key. I mean, that is just stupid. I'm sorry. And then another one was a snow cone. Come on, man.
That's ice cream cone.
That was just. I'm sorry. Like that was just. I was like, come on, y'all are just running out of ideas.
I'm going to say this right now. There's been some bad designs, and I'm going to admit, sadly, I'm going to always expect it, whether it's from Gen 1, Gen 5, Gen 6, or Gen freaking 9.
Gen 1 gets a pass because it was the first gen. Gen 2 can kind of get a pass as well because they were still working out the formula. Once you get to Gen 3, Gen 4, there is no excuse for you to start having lazy designs unless you're running out of ideas. And obviously they ran out of ideas.
I mean, the start, I would agree with you on the whole evolution thing, but the starter ones, for at least the first couple gens, look pretty good. I mean, at least for Red and Blue, Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. I mean, those were really decent designs. But
the starters are supposed to look cute, and then they turn into badasses later on.
Yeah.
Like that. That's what the starters are supposed to look like. But these starters look derpy. Yeah. They don't look cute. There's a thin line between cute and derpy.
Yeah.
And these starters look derpy. They don't look cute. They don't look like if I invest in this Pokemon and I raise it, it's going to turn into something awesome.
That's the thing. I can't really make a judgment until I see the final evolution. But with what I got right now, the only one that I could see that I could work with would be the grass type.
They all look derpy to me. They all look like there's okay, I'll give an example, right? What was the generation? I think Black and White is the one that your starters were Chimchar and
That's Gen 4, and it's Chimchar, Turtwig, and Piplup.
yeah. And like Chimchar eventually evolved into Sun Wukong. You basically got the Monkey King as your fire starter. That's awesome. And then the generation after that was the one where they had Tepig, which basically turned into Pigsy from Journey to the West. Like, I'll give you props for that. That's all cool. But it's like the gen after, it's like y'all just look, if they're running out of creative ideas, maybe they need to get new people in to design these creatures.
Yeah,
If you're running out of ideas, get new people in, or have the creatives go on a sabbatical and get their groove back. But just stop going with this lazy approach where it looks like you're running out of ideas.
I mean, they've been running out of ideas for years now. To be honest, it's just I'm looking at the designs right now. It's like what one's supposed to be a crocodile thing, the water's supposed to be a duck creature, the grass type is supposed to be like an owl, a cat. I'm not.
It's a
sure.
It's a weird hybrid of a herbal cat.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just it looks lazy. All of it looks lazy and derpy. Lazy and derpy, which is a bad combination.
Yeah.
Like you should never have a Pokemon. Like the only Pokemon that's allowed to look derpy, but then turns out to be a total bad
a total powerhouse
is Magikarp. Magikarp is the only derpy Pokemon that's allowed to look like this is a stupid Pokemon, and then you raise it to level 20. It's like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. That's the only Pokemon where it's like, oh, this is actually because the whole point of Magikarp is to show that even a Pokemon that looks absolutely ridiculous can be useful.
Yeah, doesn't Magikarp eventually evolve into Gyarados?
Yeah, that's the whole point of Magikarp. Is it's like, oh, like even a Pokemon that you discount can be useful. But I mean, that was like Gen 1. That was like multiple gens ago. Like people get it. People have been playing this for years. You don't need to smash this into our face. We know. We get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know why I care, because I don't even play Pokemon anymore. So I'll just let it go.
I don't know, maybe because it's part of your childhood. So it's just kind of, it's sad to see even things that aren't necessarily a part of anymore. It's kind of sad to see it kind of fall apart, or to see it fall apart.
Oh, it's
Pokemon's not really falling apart. It's just stagnant and not getting. It's stagnant.
I almost have to laugh at that. It's falling apart for all I know right now.
Well, falling apart means that it's not selling. It's commercially not viable. Okay.
As in, it's falling apart as far as the audience is worth.
It's not making money and people aren't buying it. If you were a Pog enthusiast, Pogs fell apart. Pokemon technically has not fallen apart. It's still making money. People are still buying the games. It's just like the game took a left and I took a right, and we've never met. The only time we came close to meeting again was X and Y, and then we went separate ways yet again. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
And I don't feel happy about it. I don't like it.
Yeah, is there anything else you guys like to say before we move on to the next topic?
I wish it were better. That's all I'll say. I wish it were better. It could be better if the fans would hold them to a higher standard of.
I am, but I don't see many others.
If the fans held them to a higher standard, it could be better, but they refuse to. They just keep on no, it's Pokemon. I grew up with it, so it gets a pass because it's Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what makes me scream almost bloody murder at people trying to say that it's the best it is has been ever. I got a
No.
middle finger for all of those guys.
Well, that's what happens. It's just like, and if you complain about it, they get angry. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna leave it alone now.
Trust me, I'm already on fire, so if anything, let's see the next topic before I erupt into another rage rant.
All right. Sony's looking to improve ray tracing on the PlayStation 5. So, really, in order, because the new consoles have ray tracing capabilities, which is essentially a way to have a more accurate method of calculating light and how it bounces off different objects. Developers can usually choose which sort of lighting they want to focus on, whether that be shadows, so accurately producing shadows, or global illumination. And there's some other lighting techniques that they could use. So, ray tracing first started becoming a big deal. Uh, at first started becoming a big deal with NVIDIA's ray tracing graphics cards or RTX line of cards. Obviously, people were talking about the possibility of ray tracing before the RTX cards, but but with ray tracing on the consoles, you can only do it at 1080p. I think it's like 1080p 30, maybe in some cases 1080p 60, depending on the game. But yeah, they're looking to optimize it more so you could potentially use it at higher resolutions. And I've also heard that there are people looking into various different tricks to use ray tracing on cards that don't necessarily have the tensor cores or the cores necessary for ray tracing. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Mid uh, Mid generation graphical optimization.
I think
Um,
this is the equivalent of putting new paint on your car.
I think it's a waste of time.
Yeah,
Because the thing is, it's on a console, and like, okay, like either they're going to make it so that this becomes something that's activated. Because I think Nvidia is no, AMD is the company that has the onboard graphics cards for these consoles
yeah,
slash micro PCs. So, unless they're integrating that technology into their games, in which what's the like? I don't see the point.
yeah.
Shouldn't I know Sony really wants their games to be like they're doubling down on cinematic games instead of making games with good gameplay. They want to make movies that you play, which to me is just kind of stupid. But I'm kind of an old school gamer. I like games that you play. I don't care about it's like a movie. I don't care.
Yeah, the thing about ray tracing is that there was only really one game that I saw that was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. That was Minecraft. Other than that, I haven't really seen anything that was like, you know, oh wow, blow your socks off. It's just like, well, looks like I took another hit in graphics. Looks like I lost half of my frames. That's fantastic. I think I'm just gonna keep this off.
Yeah, I just
But
don't see the point. I just
yeah,
don't see the point of ray tracing.
Uh, as I
Like
said, I consider ray tracing to be a new coat of paint.
unless you're playing a game where the graphical fidelity is so important to the core gameplay loop that it has to be that high, where you can see individual ray is uh,
Sunbeams.
sunbeams bouncing off of somebody, then fair enough. You got to have that type of stuff. But if I'm playing a game where that stuff isn't happening, then I
Yeah,
don't
That's
care.
kind of a waste.
if light's a very important mechanic in your game, like there's not too much of a reason to have it.
I mean, like I could see games where having like illumination in how like okay, if you're playing an exploration game where you're going for a um
Motif.
realistic graphical style and like your character is going to be outside exploring places and like you're going to want to see your character come out of a ruin and go to the top of the ruin and come out just as the sun is coming up and you can see the sun glinting off of fallen like skyscrapers where there's still some clean glass with the sun sparkling on the glass and all that type of stuff. Okay, then ray tracing is really important if you have a game where light and how it plays with certain environmental
Objects.
objects is really important. But I mean,
How how often do we get that unless we're doing something like Tomb Raider?
clearly Sony at this point is just at this point, what Sony is doing is they're just essentially they're just trying to desperately they're doubling down on BS like better graphical fidelity and stuff instead of making better games because you know their games that are very cinematic have done very well for them, so they're going to keep on doing it instead of focusing on other IPs like new IPs. I mean, I get what they're doing. It's just I don't agree with it.
Yeah,
Because they're like you can only go like because I mean I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts of people who actually like the Uncharted games and The Last of Us. And they're like, well, it's like playing a movie, and for some people that's a good thing. They want to play a movie.
Which
Me,
which
I
kind
mean,
of
like
fights when you
I mean,
think about
I'm not gonna poo-poo someone's opinion because it's an opinion and that's how they feel. Like games that are more movie-like aren't necessarily because sometimes if you only have 3 or 4 hours to play a game that's played like a movie where you get to a chapter and you quit and you go do something else, you come back and that might be an enjoyable experience. So who am I to say it's invalid as a gameplay experience? Problem is that I personally don't want to play a game that's like a movie. I want to play games that are like games. And so like to me seeing Sony go from, you know, but I mean they're doubling down on what's made them a lot of money. So I can't get angry at them, but I don't like it, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
You know, I don't want to play games that are like a movie, like, but some people do. That's what they like. And Sony's been doing this for years. I mean, you play the Order 1886. That was a 5-hour game, and there were people who were like, "Yeah, it doesn't bother me that this game's only 5 hours." Now, me, if I spend $60 on a game, it better be longer than 5 hours. But that's my own personal opinion.
mm-hmm.
You know, everyone's gonna, you know, everyone might feel differently about that, and who am I to tell people how they feel? You know, to discount someone's feelings. Um, but me personally, I don't. I'm not really, you know, I'm not down with that. I'm not down with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think these consoles should have just focused more on resolution. You know, better resolution, stability, pertaining to frame rates and just gameplay in general. Uh,
I agree. I think
rather
they should have
than
focused on gameplay. I mean, on I'd rather have 60. I'd rather have 14 by 40 and 60 frames per second, 1440 frames or 1080 frames and 60 frames solid than you know what we've been getting.
yeah, yeah.
So you know, but that's my own personal opinion. I know some people will disagree because you know,
I
opinions are
know.
like a holes. Everyone has one.
I mean, hard. I mean, the whole hard drive stuff is interesting. The SSD stuff is interesting, but it's not really a problem for me. Still really isn't a problem. I mean, I'm sure the feature's nice, but it's like I don't know. Just it's not as big deal as say games being better optimized or having more consistent frame rates and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know, and that's where people just don't understand because you tell them, I would rather have a game that is 60 frames per second. Because in the 6th gen, we had systems that could get 60 frames per second solid.
Yeah.
We still don't have games that can hit 60 frames per second solid on these consoles. Unless you do some creative
Work.
performance mode. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
mean,
know, like we've got more power, but apparently there's stuff from a few gens ago you can't do now, despite all of this quote unquote power.
yeah.
I feel gypped, but actually I don't feel gypped because I don't have a PS5. So but if I had a PS5, I'd feel gypped because it feels like they're taking advantage of me.
Well,
Or taking advantage of people, not me personally, because I don't care either way. But you get what I'm saying.
yeah. So to our fourth topic, Nintendo is fixing their N64 emulator.
Oh boy.
Majora's Mask, Paper Mario, and other games. Majora's Mask they actually improved upon a cutscene where the cutscene moved a little too quickly or something like that. Paper Mario had some kind of game breaking bug that was fixed, and also let's see, they also fixed Ocarina's Time water dungeon where they actually put the fog back in. Um, so yeah, I mean they're I guess they're listening. They're not just letting
Yeah,
things go. But
it's progress. And
All I'm
I
going
know
to
what
say
Chris
is
is going to say
this.
is he's going to say that we had better and we expect better. I'm just saying that
No,
it's
that
progress.
wasn't what I was going to say. What I was going to say is I'm
Uh
not
huh.
going to give them applauds for issues that shouldn't have been issues in the first place.
yeah, that's the
That's
That
the
problem.
that's
same
like
thing
That's
I
problem.
said.
that's like a teacher coming up and saying, "Hey,
Uh,
I taught the lesson plan that I was supposed to teach to my students. That's what you're supposed to do. You want a cookie for doing your job? Um, it's a shame that their newest hardware has difficulty running emulating games that their two last gen consoles could run relatively well. So
I mean that's the problem. It's like this this shouldn't have been an issue from day one. It's like I mean it's just not Nintendo. We've seen this time and time again with a lot of these companies where things just come out absolutely broken or with game breaking bugs and all this other stuff, and then all of a sudden they fix it, and everybody's like, yeah, I think that's coming to an end where people are praising uh, companies that have fixed the mess that they made.
yeah.
Uh, but I mean, in the past, it was like, yeah, they finally fixed it. The game's finally working. It's like now,
they fixed
the,
something that shouldn't have been broken in the first place.
yeah,
It's like it's like this shouldn't have been an issue in the beginning. Like, what? Like, was there no quality control? Like, did anyone test this game before it was put on your online library to see? This emulation isn't what it should be. That we can't put this game out
yeah,
because either these games were put out in the state they were, and Nintendo was like, well, f them, or and this is what I suspect. I suspect that I suspect that it just wasn't like someone probably started these games on the online emulator that is included with the software suite of online library games. Maybe played like 20 or 30 minutes and was like, yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Like they didn't play it through. They were just like, just it's good enough.
I mean, don't you have? I mean, I figure they have some sort of debug mode to kind of speed through certain sections to see if there's anything that's highly game breaking. But
Yeah, but you know what those games like if you played those games back in the day, you know what they're supposed to do and not do. And these games are not running like some of these games you can look at them and tell this is not running properly.
yeah,
And it's and these are your legacy titles. These are the titles that made you what you are.
yeah,
And Nintendo's not the only one who did this. Although not to the this is to a greater degree than Nintendo did. Rockstar did the same thing with the GTA trilogy. Where they released games in a state where it's like, this is inexcusable. You should be ashamed of yourself.
yeah.
And if you mention this to people, they get angry. They're like, well, they fixed it. That's not the point.
Yeah.
Point is, it shouldn't have been like that in the first place. That's the point.
Yeah, I mean, we've had these conversations before about, if this was any other industry, this sort of behavior wouldn't be acceptable.
No. Could you imagine if Peloton released a bike where major core features just weren't there, and they're like, oh well, we'll add it later. It's like, no. If you bought a car, it's like, hey, where's the radio? Oh well, we had to get this out, so we'll bring it by, and we'll put the radio in 3 months.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened to the rear seat belts? Oh snap! Oh man, don't use that. Bring it back next week. We'll put them in there.
Yeah.
And then you bring it over there, and and then the person comes, and they didn't include the rear seat belts, but then they added them the week after, so that's a good thing. It should have been seat belts in the first place, you stupid mofo.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I am tired. Like, it's not even that the companies are doing it; it's that their fans are like, well, it's understandable. It's not understandable. If these were brand new games and there had never been anything like them, like if they were taking the Legend of Zelda, if they were taking a Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, or A Link to the Past, if they were taking those games and they were remaking them from the ground up, okay, like totally from the ground up, no questions asked, and a new engine. Like what was the name of that game? Like remember in Super Mario Galaxy 2 where they had like those levels from Super Mario 64 that were remade in the Galaxy engine?
Yeah.
Right? If they did that, they're like, okay, we have the original games, but we also are taking these like Mario 64 and we're remaking it in this new engine. Okay, you know what? If it had bugs, I'd be like, okay, obviously it's a new physics engine, it's a new engine, so certain things aren't going to be one for one. They had to move some stuff around. These are the same games. These are fundamentally the same games as they were before. It's just they're running on an emulator.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's why you have to download, do that huge download when you get the library. You're downloading those games.
Yeah.
So you're basically playing games that you download, and then you have to have the membership because Nintendo basically verifies that you have the membership once every week or 2 weeks, and then you can play your games that you downloaded onto your system on the internal or included with the software. I don't know which one emulator that's there. And apparently that emulator stinks. It's worse than the emulator that they did for the Wii and the Wii U and the 3DS. So I don't know, but you know, it could be better. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, yeah. So the Steam Deck reviews are out, and
Yeah.
reviews are a bit mixed. Saw saw Linus Tech Tips review. I also I think I saw a little bit Dave 2D's review. I haven't seen a ton of reviews, but the Linus Tech review talked about, you know, it has some interesting features, like being able to see what the game is doing. Being able to easily see your performance pertaining to a game, or but one of the things that haven't been clear, they don't really have a marking system for their games to see if it works well, it plays well with the Steam Deck or not.
Yeah. I
That's what.
mean, they're coming out with it now where you can see if a game runs on Steam Deck, but it's like it's a buy will thing. The same friend who I went to his place and played Elden Ring. I also played on his Steam Deck, and I mean, you know,
And it's
it's a wonderful piece of tech for what it is. The people who were expecting it to change their lives and be like the best thing ever, it depends on how you use it. It's all depends on how you use it. If you're using it to use the cloud streaming service that's included with Steam, if you have a Steam account, it's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
If
That's
you're using it to play games, um, depending on how graphically demanding the game is, it's also great for a small period of time. Now, I'm saying this as someone who has the OG model of the Switch that has the really bad battery. That, like, if you play a really graphically demanding game, good luck getting 3 hours of gameplay time out of it before your battery is so low where it's like, okay, I gotta go plug this in. Um, so, I mean, but even a really good gaming laptop, if you don't have it charged in and you're playing a game in performance mode, or not performance, in graphical, the highest graphical settings, you're
yeah.
only going to get maybe 3 hours of gameplay anyway on it, unless you get one of those uber super batteries that are so hot that you can't do anything with it. So, I
Yeah.
mean, like, people are like, "Oh, this is the battery life." It's like, were you expecting a huge amount of battery life?
I mean, it's
You're lying.
you also have to account for, you know, I mean, if you're playing a graphically intense game, yeah, it's going to produce more heat, which is going to produce more energy. It's
And
going
it's
to
gonna
exhaust more
drain the
energy.
battery a lot
It's going
faster.
to drain the battery
Exactly.
quicker. So it's
And
just
that's
like,
any
what?
type of tablet type gaming device. Like I said, the Switch, if you play like and I've done this when I first got my Switch because I was like, I'm fascinated with the form factor. I can play my games on the go. It's great. And I went to the movies and I was playing this was Xenoblade Chronicles X, not X, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I played that game while I was waiting because I got to the movie early. I got to the movie like 45 minutes early. I played that game uh, from when it took me about a 15-minute drive to get to um, the movie theater. I got my ticket. It took me about 5 minutes to get to my seat. I got a huge drink, nothing else. By the time I played, so it was like 40 minutes till it started. I was my console was unplugged and I was using it for like 45 minutes. The battery dropped to like 30% by the time the movie was over. I wasn't playing it the entire time through the movie. Just for those 45 minutes and then putting it into sleep mode, the battery dropped down to 34%. And like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is one of the more graphically demanding games on the Switch. It's doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean that.
And the
That's
Switch
kind
is using tech that was top of the line like 8 years ago.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that case, I'm glad I go for lower graphic games because it actually lasted longer than that for me.
On games that are less graphically demanding, it's actually better. But the thing is that um, the Switch is using old tech, so obviously that's not going to have as much. That's not going to be using as much power and as newer stuff. So it's just one of those things where it's like that's the you get like you're paying for you're paying for a really nice little micro console that you can also hook up to stuff and play like that.
Yeah, one of the things, one of the reasons I'm getting it is, using it as a Steam Link slash possible an emulation machine, uh, and maybe play some smaller indie game titles with it. But yeah, I, I don't know. I mean, it's just you know, it's just the way things are. Like, guess they could have put a bigger battery in, but that means the console would probably have to be even bigger. So
Yeah,
you have to
and they
take those
want that
things.
form factor.
Yeah, you have to take a lot of that stuff into account, and you know, it's not so much a question of battery for a lot of these things. It's a question of application optimization and all the variables that the application is doing. I mean, even if you did have a bigger battery, you'd probably only still get a few hours of gameplay. Something like Control, which has a lot of particle effects. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I got one because I have a huge Steam library, and there's a lot of games that I want to be able to play around my house. And also, I got one because I like the emulation concept of being able to basically get a lot of my emulation library running on the Steam Deck. Uh, I like that concept.
yeah,
Um, you know, because I mean, I know some people say, "Oh, you emulate your games?" Yes, I have a huge physical library of games that I ripped myself and put and digitized because I get tired of switching cartridges out. And a lot of games I have that are Japan only that were never localized. So in order for me to translate them, I had to patch them, and you can only you can patch a ROM. You know,
yeah,
uh, like you can't patch a physical game. So in order for me to play these games, like I love Star Ocean, the original Star Ocean. That game never had a English release. So if you want to play it, you got to either get a ROM and patch it and play a patched version of the ROM, or do what I did, get the Japanese version, rip it and patch it. Either way, you're not going to be playing that game unless you're emulating it. And I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me, but it's like there's just certain games that they were never like. If you want to play Mother 3, that game's never been brought over. You have to play an emulated version of that game. You know,
yeah.
there's just certain games that you just like. You want to play this game? Well, good luck because it was never brought over. So you know, so yeah, like the people who are complaining about Steam Deck and are like, I don't like this. I'm like, look, like you're only gonna get a certain amount of like with form factor, you have to deal with performance. Like with the Switch, like there were some people who complain about, well, these games don't look great on the Switch. It's a tablet. It's a hybrid console. They had to sacrifice performance. They had to sacrifice graphical fidelity for performance and battery life. Now, if it was a console, you wouldn't have to worry about that because a console can afford to draw more power because it's a console. You don't get that from that form factor. You just gotta kind of take it, unfortunately, whether you like it or not. Um, that's the price you pay for having such a small form factor. And if you can't deal with that, well, Steam Deck's not for you.
And I can already hear the the people that said that this is just right and hated on something else that was similar, trying to do revisionist history.
True.
People that were hating on the Wii U for one thing.
Yeah, but the Wii U wasn't. The Wii U was a console. The Wii U wasn't a basically a handheld. It was a console.
Yeah, but as I said, people insulted the Wii U for that, for the controller at least, saying that it was so bulky, it was so heavy, and all that, and yet, if anything, the Wii U tablet is is a little bit thicker than what the Steam Deck is, and they're saying that's better. Oh boy.
Yeah, but I mean, you're also getting you're getting a huge. Like there are other
Excuse me.
benefits aside from the form factor for the uh,
Steam Deck.
for the Steam Deck. You're getting the massive amount of
Mm.
third party support. Something that the Wii U did not get. Okay, you're getting the massive infrastructure of Valve, which I mean, whether you like it or not, there's a huge amount of online infrastructure for Valve that, unlike Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, you don't have to pay for that. You buy one Valve game, you can use all of their infrastructure. They aren't charging you for it.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
Oh,
that's a benefit. That is a benefit. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying you have to agree with it, but that is a benefit. Um, so I mean, there's there's bennies to it. Um, I wouldn't compare it to. I would not compare the Steam Deck to the Wii U though. If you want to compare the Steam Deck to anything, I would compare it to a gaming laptop, a mid-tier gaming laptop, which is what it really is. It's a small form factor gaming laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And there's nothing wrong with that.
no, not at all. So, for our last topic of the night, Smash Brothers is not coming to Evo this year, and that's where the title comes that we only play at parties comes from, because Nintendo's like, well, as Nintendo's essentially, it's like we don't see that Smash Brothers belongs in the competitive scene. I don't even think it's that, because they were. Remember a few months ago that they had a deal with I forgot the name of the company, Panda something, uh to have tournaments and stuff. So I think they're probably just focusing on that versus,
Yeah,
they want to be they want to have more control over the
the
kind of
branding.
yeah, the branding of
Yeah,
Smash, competitive Smash versus it being at Evo, because there's a
there
certain
was that thing that happened at Evo. Plus, Evo is now owned by Sony, and I could see Nintendo not wanting to give their money to their competitor
yeah,
because that's just bad business.
yeah, it's owned by
among other
Sony.
things, but yeah,
It's owned by Sony. There's some weird stuff that
that's
some
going on in the background.
inappropriate stuff that happened in the fighting game community. There's
Yeah,
there's obviously a certain group of people that tend to gravitate towards competitive Smash that
they don't want to be associated with.
Unsavory.
they don't want to be associated with, so they want a control over the sort of people. They want to associate. They want Smash uh, competitions to be able to associate with the more marketable people.
I mean,
Let's just put it that way.
I mean, I could. I think that
Air
it's a
comes.
combination of all three. I think it's a combination of they don't want to give money to Sony because, like, what people don't understand when they say this game is at Evo, that means that the company that made that game is also helping to sponsor that. And Nintendo probably is like, we're sponsoring another fighting competition. We don't want to sponsor two. And so they're like, we're not giving money to Evo. Plus, Evo, like I said, Sony owns Evo. Why would you give money to your competitor? That is stupid. That's bad business. Also, that whole thing where Evo had pedophiles using
Their power.
Evo as a place where they could groom young people. There
Yeah.
was a lot of stuff going on where it's like, okay, like this is not this is not kosher. This can't be happening.
So that's the weird thing. It's like, don't you have to be 18 to be able to apply for these fighting game competitions in Evo, or can you
That
be?
that is true, but if you have an adult with you, you can go.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
as
I
an
guess so.
adult, like if you're a parent, let's say you're 40 something and your kid is able to play a fighting game competitively. They say, "Hey, I won this tournament. Let's go." And your kids are hanging out with another group of kids. You're not going to think they're going to go off to a pedo party, to a predator pedo party. You just wouldn't think about that's like the last thing on your mind, but that's what happened because these people were using their power in order to indulge their sick uh, uh, weird
Machinations.
proclivity. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're weird proclivity. And I mean, I'm not the thought police. People have weird thoughts, but you don't act on them. And these people acted on them, and they mixed business with
Pleasure.
some. Well, pleasure for them. I don't think I don't consider doing stuff
Yeah,
like that to be a good thing, but they did
yeah,
that,
I
and
I agree with you there. It's just that if anything, some people would say they mixed their business with their quote unquote pleasure. I
yeah.
think that will work.
And they, that was them. That was their stupid behinds. Because I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't.
You probably shoot them out of a cannon and fire them to be sure that they don't come back.
No, no, I don't think pedophiles should be killed. Um,
I didn't say killed. I was saying shoot them out of the place, as in launch them to somewhere that's away from you.
I'd just call the police. I'd be like, look, you got to go to jail.
Yeah,
You
something
gotta,
like
you gotta go to jail. You can't, because
that's just wrong and very illegal.
jobs don't do that. What they do is they're like, well, um, what winds up happening is that they're like, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna
You can either take the severance package and leave quietly, or we can make this a legal issue, depending on.
you gotta go. That's what they basically. They're like, you gotta
Yeah,
go, but they don't actually fire people. They're like, well, so and so did this and this happened. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of messed up because this person did some really messed up stuff, and how do they still have a job? Um,
Quite, it's probably an impossibility to figure out how they do that.
well, because it's easier for a company to just let someone go than to act because they don't want to raise a public stink on it and like have people like, how could you let this happen? Because look at all the messed up stuff, molestation that's happened at certain places, and people weren't fired. They were just, oh well, we just quietly let them go, or we got someone else in over the program. Remember that whole Penn State thing with Jerry Sandusky?
Oh boy.
yeah, that
Same thing.
was that was pretty bad. That was
Yeah.
pretty bad. And the whole thing is sad because it's just like there are so many people that should have been put in jail. So
Oh
many
yeah.
people, because
Oh yeah.
there are so many people that happened on their watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things where people are like, "Oh, we didn't know." People would tell people, "Do not let your kids go around Uncle Jerry. Don't
Yeah.
let your young kids go around Jerry." They all knew. People had reported it, but because there was a point where Joe Paterno was supposed to step down and Jerry Sandusky was going to take over the program, and they brought Joe Paterno back because they knew Jerry was a problem. They said you can't have your program with those kids on the university. Why? Because universities love to have social programs where they're like, yeah, we help the underprivileged kids. They did it because they knew he was molesting kids and they didn't want the legal blowback. That's why they did it. And that's the same thing that went on at the Smash thing. They knew there was shady stuff going on, and they were like, "Oh well, it's okay. We'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in, unfortunately. But yeah, Nintendo. All this is just Nintendo, just basically wanting to do their own thing because Nintendo likes having control. For good or ill, Nintendo likes having control. That is that company.
Yeah, they're better control freaks, which has both helped and harmed them throughout their legacy. So
Yeah, when it pays off, it's great. When it doesn't pay off, you get the Sony PlayStation.
yeah,
Enough
yeah,
said.
Yeah, when it works, I mean, you get the N64 with all of those awesome games that came out. When it doesn't work, you get the Sony PlayStation that basically, like Sony came in and took over the video gaming market.
yeah, yeah.
So it's one of those. Well, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Have fun figuring those out. Oh boy.
I mean, that's just Nintendo. They've always kind of been like control freaks. That's kind of the cool thing is that the Iwata wasn't like kind of moved them away from being control freaks about a lot of stuff. But this new guy, he's very much a control freak. So
Hmm.
we're going back to that. We have to control everything, and darn you if that happens. So that's just that's the price you pay. These things happen. You just got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So is there anything else you guys would like to bring up before we call it a night?
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
I think I'm alright.
All right. Want to give your sign offs and we can wrap up the show.
Thank you for joining us on Project Console. Sorry I was a little late.
That's all right. Things happen. I was late too because it took a nap longer than I thought I was gonna take. Yeah.
Well, in that case, hopefully we'll be on time next round. But till then, well, join us next time on either Project Console or if you follow Mr. Red Fox, the BS Busters. Every Wednesday, Saturday, and for this show, Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. There is the BS Busters every Wednesday and Saturday, 7:30 to 9 o'clock. I also have a couple of videos that I've posted on my channel that I'd really like people to give their feedback on. One about the rumored Fallout New Vegas 2 rumor, and another one about the ideal, not the ideal, speculation about Elder Scrolls 6. And I'm also working on a 2-part, my idealized Breath of the Wild, where I basically go over what to me would be like the best Breath of the Wild ever. So that's gonna be kind of fun. I'm working on the script, the outline for that. I've done the first part. I have to do the second part for the second part of the video. But look forward to that. That'll be out either Thursday or Friday.
Alright, this is Kanoshi Abominito here with episode 21 of Project Console. We only play at parties. Hope to see you next week. Hopefully we're on time next week. 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Catch you on the other